This is my book. This is the first piece, A New World. I gashed my knee, my head too, maybe a broken rib. Someone at work offered a bed so he could check me through the night. As a kid, I often fell, a stone under a skate, a bike crash. When a scrape bled, or that time they found me head against a tree root, no one said a word or seemed to care. I didn't either. If they see my frailty, though, how long will I hold my job? How much safer to look good now that I'm old? At the giant eagle, an old man stares at the pay pad till the clerk presses the button for him. I use cash so I won't look like that. Outside, they walk by laughing, hand in hand, or just looking at each other. I don't notice their color, only that they're young and have accents I don't understand. At the lotto counter, we wait, our faces and posture American, surrendered to hope and chance, like trees. We could do something with life in it, look at each other, or at least at those faces on the street. Is that why we hate them, saying what they please, acting like they're free? Lately, people talk faster than I can listen, like I'm sitting on a bench and they're running by. Maybe I'm listening too deep to keep up, because under the talk, I see the vitality of their thought and hear our shared humanity. It's getting worse, and I'm often near tears, but it feels like freedom. Heart massage, the right carotid, a vascular case with stroke risk, so I am here. For no reason, her heart stops, her brain too. What's her crit? When it comes back low, where's the hemorrhage? He cracks her sternum, closed heart massage, minute after minute, no rhythm or hope. When I take over, the bone edges grind under my hands, her pliant heart beneath, soft and silent, but then living, pulsing, pushing back. Her left brain returns. They give blood, place a pacer and an assist pump, get her off the table, but no further. Since then, that surgeon does cosmetics, varicose veins. I work with numbers. They don't push back. This one is written in two registers. You can see it on the page, but for reading, I'm going to snap my fingers when it switches. Not my nightmare. I saw the pawnbroker in college, a family picnic in a spotless German wood, the growl and squeal of engines and brakes, soldiers climbing from the trucks, the father led in chains through a warehouse, another father dragged from the table, tortured and set to work in a Baghdad prison, another cop, the wrong door, another black teenager shot dead. A glimpse of his nude wife on a gurney, men pointing and haggling, the son on another, men pointing and haggling, the daughters calling out and screaming. Another daughter sold for breeding, another wife in a fine house. I have lived that in a dream since, and since I was a child, the same trucks at the same curb, the same growls and the same screams. I have always feared that even here in America, the trucks will come someday for me, but that's not my nightmare. Another news flash, flak jackets and rifles, another sick certainty, pure men of faith. I never noticed that anywhere in the world. If you're not white, they come any day. You're not male, it's every day. Now for some entertainment. Cassandra, daughter of Troy. Forget what you've heard. We knew her. Hecuba. I bore them one after the next. I hardly knew them, even their names, but I know they're killers. Night after night, Cassandra's screams echoed through the walls into the town. When I held her, she slept, then woke and screamed till dawn. Hellenes too, but together they slept clinging to each other's feet. War came and my city lay open. So many sons killed, women taken, my husband, my children. I went mad. They say I blinded someone, killed his sons. They named me dog, but no greater beasts exist than princes. Though I lived only as crucible, I lived yet in Elysium with my daughters, and there are no heroes here. Hector. I was still young when they were born, twins, always together. Mischief, but somehow never caught. One day they were still tiny. They came to me hand in hand as I practiced the axe. Hellenes was distracted by dragonflies. Cassandra looked up at me with calm, her eyes the same as our grandmother's, and as if I was a player in her child's game, she said, Andromache will always have life. Andromache. The day Troy fell, Pyrrhus snatched Hector's son from my arms, cast him from our tower, and so I withered to a wraith. The victor's lot cast me to this same Pyrrhus, my second husband, father of more sons. Hellenes, my third, told me that Cassandra caused it all. What do I care? I only know I bore son after son to one prince after the next and wove shrouds for them all. Freedom. We held to each other, twins in the royal creche, seeing, knowing, our innocence ripped away, shrieking, but our understanding still unstained. That changed, and I knew that when Apollo asked, fate would turn on my answer, for my city, for all the world, even for the gods. Either way, my lot was servitude and horror. Once I chose, it hardly mattered that I was made mute, invisible, like an old woman. That, after all, was my fame and power too, for it granted those brief moments to breathe free and speak ungodly truth. To my father, beware the gift horse. To Agamemnon, your queen breathes murder. To Apollo, no. The turning point. Take me, Cassandra, else you will never be believed. Apollo. That day we washed, girls in a sand pool near the river mouth, first our clothes, then each other. I lived that moment 1,000 times as an infant and as a child, when I chose for myself, for my sisters, and for Greece. At first step into the water, the cold of it rippled through us, and he was there, perfect, but only in his manly torso. For though the face of Zeus's children are beautiful, Apollo is hideous for the cruel meanness which would compel a girl, and for his utter reliance on his gifts. No one has understood that I bore his curse because he lived as coward and failed as God. Ajax. We are creatures of war. Even the Hebrews know this. At Troy's fall, my lust was sated as always before with innocent blood. I plucked Cassandra from your embrace, feeble goddess, your arm ripped away by my might, and with it your pledge to Troy's safety. Why would I worship Athena when I am mightier, a goddess who could not kill me? But when my fellow kings seized me, my life in the balance, then I cried, I am innocent. Never before have I cowered. I would flush to the bone remembering, had I skin and blood. So many heroes dwell here in anguish, yet that wisp of a girl, that hero's toy, lives on with the righteous. Agamemnon. I knew Helen, of course, trouble from the start. Clytemnestra's sister and lovely as the sun, a constant temptation, and my brother's wife. When she ran off, good riddance, but he was wise. Then there was power in it, and glory too. When it came to spoils, I chose Cassandra, her unquenched fire like a force of nature, and I was glad I did. Before we reached home, though, I should have given her away or killed her, for Clytes saw her and became too sweet. I should have seen it, and I should have believed Cassandra, for that last night together, Clytie and her creature stabbed us, then hacked us to pieces for fools. Clytie's spite sent me to hell, king and greatest of Greeks. Cassandra still lives in Elysium. Helenus. Cassandra chose our fate, and I allowed it. Why not? My life was good. We were children, clinging to each other, staring into the stark futures, axes and arrows, blades and blood. The power of prescience raged in us like a furnace. War came for a decade. The Greek sieves defeated again and again by Hector, by our wall, by their own madness and lust for glory. They hunted me down, and yes, I told them, why not? They said it was jealousy, that Helen chose another, but I knew it all from the start. I had seen Troy laid open 1,000 times. I knew with the certainty of a God what would come, and just as surely that I would flourish. Yes, I told them, deface Athena, kill Troilus. Yet I did not betray, for the Furies had long since decreed Troy's fall. We saw that as tender children, but my lot was contentment. Cassandra's was grief and rage. Athena, never have I served a mortal unless I wished it, even Odysseus. How cruel that a child saw so clearly and was forced to choose her own doom. I admire you, Cassandra, your courage and your judgment too, but your choice undid me. When Ajax defied me in my own house, and the Greeks favored his coward's plea, I, God of war and wisdom, was forced to vengeance, and so served your prescient will. That ended my power over men. How strange that no one believed you then or now, yet everyone knows the gods are bested by knowledge. Farewell. I am Cassandra, cursed princess of Troy. I had wealth and station, but like those before me and the multitude since, only through men who wanted me. Apollo was mine, the towering perfection of him, the glories of the gods' mistress. I could not bear it, subject body and soul to a coward, even a god. Had I taken him, Troy lives an extra month. I bear a daughter, and Agamemnon takes her. No, I chose instead to deny both beasts and bear the curse, to live mute and with my lucid vision, my wit and freedom transmuted to a weapon wielded to shield the unborn. Tell my story to all who will listen. Though straight from me, you can only write as has always been for us, through a glass darkly, for we still have power only through men. That battle goes on, and though my sight remains, this time the choice of fate is not mine. I only know our power grows, and so too man's cowardice. I have two more short pieces, quite short actually. I wanted to read this one, this review. I'm so pleased. That last poem, by the way, that's been translated and has appeared in Greek, which is a kick. Alternate universe. We built rocket payloads for the vacuum of space, immaculate. Our test systems were just as clean, spark welded, stainless plumbing, scrubbed with solvents, blasted with dry nitrogen, then pumped down and baked red hot. I apprenticed with Jim Murphy, an old man, a widower like I am now. He often spoke for his life in the church since her passing, stained glass window repairs, broken sewer pipes, how his watch ran backwards that time he went with another woman. Our shared humanities. Nothing is deadlier, dogma, so beautiful, courage, riskier, faith, seductive, privilege, more noble and just, war, more profane, indifference, crueler, God. No greater truth, kindness, nor greater lie, color. Nothing more human, discovery.
I have unmuted myself, and you will find that my brain works in strange and wonderful ways. I'm reading to you from this last poetry collection, which, hang on, let me do this properly. There, it's called The Vain Girl, and it was published in Ireland. And because it was a full-length poetry collection, I could indulge, and I grouped the poems, and was allowed to do all sorts of things that in a chapbook you can't do, because you have to kind of stay in character. So you will see. I better just start reading, so otherwise I run out of time. Okay, this is the poem that gives the book its name. A marriage. The vain girl lives in her dreams and in a house without a roof, where mushrooms push through the carpet and a beehive is forcing its tumorous growth through the piano strings. As weightless as a new soul, she stares at him in distress. And why would she remember lightness now? This next one is written for Virginia Woolf, who, as you probably all know, took her life. And her marriage was not exactly the best. And it is about how marriages just become dysfunctional. When nothing is left for Virginia Woolf. Those first times, they would on occasion run into each other, feeling something, substance. She'd noticed it one summer night. The moon had penetrated her own reflection in the large sliding doors. After that, her husband would frequently reach through her for the drink she had placed on the mantel. Gradually, he also lost density. The house filled with mirrors, confirming their essential natures. One Wednesday morning, as he wished her good morning, she grabbed his reflection, walked out through the garden door, and drifted towards the river, picking up stones on her way. This next one begins a few poems about my run-in with fairy tales and strange things when I was a kid. Waterways. The green girl waited at the pier, hovered around the black pylons, wet and rotting, lashed by the waves, painted in abstracts by sea moss. Fernando pushed out his boat, young, brown, muscular, and carefree. The birds screeched in anticipation of his return. Sea lions pretended not to notice. Nets neatly rolled, ready for an early winter catch. Oil lamp in the bow. She slid into the lancha, undulated, coiled beneath the tackle. Weeks later, they found him washed up on the beach near Turtle Rock, a smile on his blue lips. This is as much about my childhood in war as it is about fairy tales. Terror. How much time is left? In the whispers and hissings are hidden words. Mom and Dad disappear after they kiss me goodnight. They don't know that I'll soon be taken. Something strokes me with cold feathers. I wish I could tell. This is in the same league. Haunting. No legs will carry what I have become. The note between the harmonies, the breach between severed limbs, and the twilight between worlds. When you count the time that passes between lightning and thunder, that's where you'll find me, leaning into the quiet, where I feel lace cascading from insubstantial sleeves. And this is also about ownership, about what happens to us in life. And it's not always pleasant, but sometimes the good comes. About ownership. Even her dolls were on loan from a cousin. The flat was rented and soon would be a hole in the ground, the ever-changing geography of her existence. Trains, planes, hotels, and badlands of circumstance. She survived. The house owned by the bank, husbands coming and going. Then she fell into the eye of the tornado, stunned. Her children claimed her, and they would own her as long as she could breathe. This is about relationships, a closing. On the other side of you, there is a no place, where silences build bridges across hidden waters, where Pirandello's actors are searching for a stage, lost for a script. Concrete begets concrete, and the heart can no longer accommodate love. Or perhaps it just dies, gently, of negligence. And this is about the reluctance to commit. At the oyster bar, pardon, he looks at her. She is wielding the short, stocky oyster knife with expertise. She looks at him, wants to open his mouth with a knife, but fears finding a pearl. Now I'm becoming the very strange me. The collector finds them in bars, parks, buses, the underground or coffee shops. He frequents downtown pole dance joints, picks up blondes, brunettes, or curly blacks. Long legs, ample behinds, he's not choosy. All have one thing in common. They talk too much. Somewhere in Soho, they stagger down those stairs on dizzying heels, click-clacking their way into his basement, call him affectionately Nutter, make themselves comfortable. He smiles, puts his finger to his lips, and readies the little machine, pushes the button, and records 10 minutes of their silent breathing. La muerte. In English, we have no obvious genders for nouns. At least they don't find expression in their articles. In Spanish, death is feminine. La muerte will come and take you home. How soothing to think, one day I'll be giving myself into a boundless woman's keep. Here we have a bit of nature. I do those too. Changing of the guard. September knocks on summer's shed. That's where she keeps her fineries, her juiciest grasses, her fresh mornings, hinting at the swelter of noon, where she stores her languid evenings, still hoarding her shamelessness, her ardor. September moves in gently, and gold. The first harsh winds hint at skeletal trees, naked black against pale gray. And this is about a relationship again that they were trying to fix, but it didn't work. Make believe. Spring in the shires, and sharp shadows cut the bright green lawns. Slim Gothic windows, each one reaching up to its arch, made that slanted sun slide on old parquet. Once a rectory, now a hotel. The kids came too, hopeful and shiny. You were apprehensive. I still felt the skin of another. I had promised you one more try, and the children expected too much. We walked across sparkling April lawns, and I knew then we wouldn't defeat winter. And now we are going to the more fun part. I was loosely related to the cinema and have written a few poems about the cinematic scene. It's a wrap. 8 months, 3 days and 4 hours, pre-production not included. Actors arrived, set designer and his crew, costume ladies, makeup, hair, director, of course. The locals hovered. Did you see him? Gorgeous. She's just adorable, so friendly. Wouldn't have thought. A few more weeks. Greta hated that bitch Marlene who made her always look bad. Stephen's boyfriend couldn't make it. No one else on the set. Can you believe this? The leads had been into each other from when they shot the seduction scene. Limited crew. The director got close. The camera a close-up. Liaison brought in more condoms. The German guy is hot. They're queuing to get laid. Holy dickhead, this is nothing. Did you screw on Heaven's Gate? Last day of shoot, it's in the bag. Rushes look good, wrap party. Champagne, sandwiches without crusts, white powder. Annie wears almost a skirt. And Jason lies stoned in a corner of changing room number 2. Back home, will they understand complicity, proximity, and pheromones? This speaks for itself. The importance of being there for someone. In slippers, shorts, and vest. Watches his team lose. His hands fly to his face, move up, pull at his hair. Idiots! My God, only 2 inches to the right. He scratches his balls, shuffles over to the kitchen counter. Mom, no coffee. Mom doesn't hear his need. He swears, burps, and gets pissed off. He can see her in the yard looking after the bloody chickens. For a moment there, he feels passionate about his own survival. Lacking the will and the skill for coffee, he falls back onto the couch, shakes one of the cans. Some beer is left in one. While they're in halftime, Some chick with two impressive fakes and an even bigger fake smile is trying to sell some gadget to get good abs. Won't work for him. Absent-mindedly, he fondles his expanding gut, farts. He's feeling good again, even though Mum had mentioned work. But he knows that there's no way he'll be out all day, leaving the poor old dear running the farm all on her own. I had some fun with these. Sweet revenge. You were the cast out. Wrong. You had lice once. They shaved your hair. Even your name was off. Who the hell called their daughter Noelia? Your clothes came from the church sales. We snickered. They used to be ours. Your baby sister had a permanently snotty nose. No one came to your graduation, and under that gown, your stockings had ladders. We gloated. The years passed, and we forgot. I so badly wanted that job and thought long and hard how I would market myself, about the resume with its slightly dusted truths. Of course, they'd call me for an interview. One last look at my reflection in that plate glass door confirmed my perfect grooming. I didn't recognize you at first, Noelia. After all, I'd never bothered to remember your face. You played me like a virtuoso, and then your masterstroke. You hired me. We're getting to the end, but I want to read you these last couple. We, the people. We, the people, insignificant in the grand scheme, quietly colluding. We, the three monkeys, no see, no hear, no speak, achieving a momentum of minimal effort. Experts know how to make us shovel the guano in their backyards, no charge, boss. We, the blockheads, marginalized because we too stand awestruck at the altar of the bottom line. Ignorance does not absolve us from the burden of accounting when someone asks one day, and where were you? And I think this will resonate with most of you. Peace on earth. You've just switched from this old cell phone you were feeling increasingly ashamed of to the latest in smartphones. You had to print out the manual, a PDF of 148 pages, which ate your last color printer cartridges. On Christmas Day, of course. The paper got stuck about 5 times. They gave you a new telephone number. But since you don't know how to use the thing, you may as well be disconnected from the world. Even the new email system is not something for the faint-hearted, and your fingers are too fat for the tiny keyboard. That's when you begin to know you're back where you were before you learned how to use your first IBM clone, which cost you 2 arms and at least 4 legs, and was, with its 20 megabyte hard disk, the most awesome device ever invented for $6,000. You remember how you rolled on that new office carpet in frustration, wondering how to switch the Inferno machine on. You suddenly realize you'll soon be reading that manual. That's it.
So I'm going to read a poem called When Mother Took Her Hair Down. When Mother took her hair down in order to wash it, We gathered round to see it fall nearly to her knees, the strangeness of it. She was an ancient sorceress. Her hair fell in wondrous waves. We imagined what could live there in the dark. Small animals, fairies perhaps, ladders for little people who built homes in her tresses. We played peekaboo through its drapery until she shooed us so she could wash it. Then she sat before the fireplace to let it dry, bent forward so it cascaded. We could see the fire through it as she brushed it. We huddled close to her feet for warmth. She brushed and brushed. We asked to help, but our small hands did not have the strength to handle its thickness, its body. Then she gathered it up and braided in that funny way of hers. She held a strand in her mouth, fixed two thick braids, then wound them round in the style of her Icelandic mother. She looked old-fashioned and regal, like a visitor from a faraway country where nature is cruel and a woman is prized for the hair on her head. And then I'm going to read a second poem, and that's it for me. In just a second, I'll read one more. This one is called Road Test. Here we go again, flying across the desert, mother in the front seat with her silent prayers. Dad guns the engine of the new Buick. The small town's a blur, a two-lane highway across an immense landscape. Like the flat bottom of a great sea, he tells us. This was once an ocean teeming with life, amazing sea creatures. I can almost see it in the washed out land, the giant squid. Elsewhere, everywhere there is sand. And if I close my eyes, I can flood the Great Basin. I can see the bony fish, the giant squid swimming in the depths. Somewhere farther out, they are testing bombs. A burst of light, a large mushroom cloud rises into heaven, signaling the gods that we have such power. Melted the eyes of those too close to the flash. Atomic bombs that can end all life. They don't count this land for much, or the people who live here. A land steeped in loneliness and hard to love. The bow-tied men far away, grinding out reports.
My poem is called Folly, and here it goes. Folly. Desiderius Erasmus wrote in Latin in praise of folly 500 years ago, the church providing folly gratis. Stone the blasphemer was not the hue and cry. Erasmus prefaced it with excuses that everyone was foolish, sometimes less, sometimes more. Besides, it was in Latin. Only studious schoolboys had grown up enjoying it. For these, the fun was on everyone. Now all is in English. Everyone reads, few understand. Folly is everywhere. There is no reprieve. That's it.
Thank you.
About them. The first is called The Measure of What We Cannot See. I woke in the endless stretch of 4 a.m., pre-dawn, the longest span of pre-anything. The capacity to measure, surely, exists only when upright, eyes open to see the mark we place next to the beginning, the line we draw when we determine the end. Flat on my back, turning to one side, then the other, I burrowed for sleep which I did not reach. You'd think I dug through dirt tunnels with my eyes for their weight and weary scratchiness, They're feeling bruised and swollen, as if the impossible had happened and they'd finally outgrown the sockets and paper-thin eyelids, defying the truth that, never growing, never shrinking, we grow into our eyes, mature around them, every bone of our skull expanding until we lose that Margaret Keane magnetism, the fawn, puppy, yearling, infant innocence that triggers tenderness. Thank you for this small reminder that today begins with all types of readiness. Bright light only minutes ahead of dark clouds, strong winds knocking the branch against the window. Less sand remains in the hourglass. Yes, that hourglass. Piling up in its ever-increasing mound below, all memories a little scratchy, roughing the tender skin between my toes. That day, we walked barefoot along the Semiahmoo spit, feet bluing with cold, neither wanting to admit, surrender, give in, the folly of trying to keep up. The way we rubbed and rubbed our sand-crusted feet we couldn't feel, not knowing how long it would take. First numbness, then tingling, then pain, unmeasurable, losing sight of when we chose this love and when we began to burrow our way out. And if there's time for a second one, it is called Becoming Sepia, and this was published in La Presa, issue 10, in both Spanish and English. I will read you the English version, Becoming Sepia. On the table with the white cloth, the chipped china plate looks intentionally aged, the tarnished silver a nod to shabby chic, the gold filigree smudged off the crystal goblet, hints at the years of hands raised in toasts. The candelabra's drip-covered candles denote an elegance of past occasions celebrated. The fade and droop of yesterday's flowers somehow provide a charm in just the right light. The yellow of the old woman's hair evokes the splendor of times past. You behold her like a sepia photo, admire her through the lens of long ago. Put the gilt picture frame back on the table, walk away without asking her name. Thank you.
I'd like to go back to Don. I'm sure he will know this book. Has anyone seen this one by Nikos Kazantzakis?
Sure.
Yeah, it was came out in 1938 in Athens, and Simon and Schuster published the translation in 1958. So I thought I'd bring it up here. It's a 700 solid pages of poetry, but it's not what I'm gonna do tonight. Don't worry. I have a couple of brief poems that I dedicated to my wife, Bożena. Your breath, like the sound of the sea, rises and falls. I'm in a lunar boat catching stars in the garden of the night. Next one is Without You. Day's aroma fades away. We do not walk among the trees. Bread dries on the table. Apples do not fall. The cat does not stretch into the night. Time rings hollow. The touch of the stars fade away. Poems are not born. And the last one, night as the promise of love and sleep comes with a touch. The moon loses its silver scales. Fish fall asleep in the pond. The word of a poem stiffens. The scream of a late flying goose. The eyelids close on the garden of sleep and your hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a poem I wrote 10 years ago or so about, it's set in the neighborhood I live in, and one night I just got off the bus early and walked about the last 10 blocks home, and I was just trying to imagine what this this neighborhood would have been like 50 years ago or something like that. So this is called Apparitions of a Winter Night. I get off the bus at 64th and Linden because I can hear a ruin somewhere in the dark organ chords of alcohol laughter that are playing out of tune. It is a twilight of clouds like a torn purple gown from a wedding reception 50 years ago, where a groom holds a top hat filled with missing conversations. The maid of honor is carrying the bride's bouquet, her pre-Raphaelite face looming in the approaching night, like a cold lunar mask above her fabric of lace. I walk home tonight underneath antique street lamps casting a pale yellow glow. On the pen and ink bare tree limbs reflected on my face passing by a shop window. A cyclist whirs by like a shadow of myself at 11 as cold portals of azure shine through the indigo heavens. Thank you.
No, but I saw the moon, and that was the inspiration for this, as well as inspired by my wife, Charmaine. And this is called Moon Kiss. Is the moon more mysterious because it is far away? Is being far away more romantic? Is the unattainable more beautiful? Is the moon far away more alluring? Your lips are only inches away. I feel you breathing. Are you less alluring? Are you not beautiful? Are you any less mysterious? 10 times around the equator. That's how far the moon is. I saw a man on TV walk on the moon. I imagine walking on the moon. I could kiss you now. Just lean in a bit. No spacesuit needed. Just the attraction of gravity. When I am on the moon, I see you by this pond in the moonlight. I imagine kissing you, the leaves rustling. I would need to travel 10 times the distance around the equator. Now I just lean in. It's gravity.